A request to speak card should be completed and returned to the city clerk or board secretary prior to the board reaching this section of the agenda. Citizen comments are limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise required by law. Comments related to public hearings, if any, will be heard when the specific hearing is called. Linda?
It's a good thing I had a pace car.
Have a seat, please.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, ma'am.
Wait till I ask for a motion to make one, please. All right, item A, receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on the August 17th, 2021 meeting minutes. Any discussion or questions?
Motion to approve.
Second,
Those in favor?
aye.
Opposed?
Anderson.
There being none, then the minutes are approved. Second item, item B, receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on the September 7th, 2021 meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second, Anderson.
Those in favor? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There being none, then the minutes are approved. Moving right along, item C, receive a report, hold a discussion, and make a recommendation on repainting and take action on a request to modify the facade at 314 West Main Street, case number 2021-62H. Kirsten, at this time, I think we'll have to ask you to exit the room. Thank you. Mr. Medina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, or good afternoon, rather. Here's a subject property outlined in yellow on West Main Street. Sorry. And here's the front facade of the building. The next slide is the rear or the alley facade of the building. The applicant is requesting several facade modifications to the rear and front of the building. As outlined in your agenda packet, a lot of the work should not and would not damage the historical integrity of the building, and in fact, it should only improve it. They're wanting to reinstall transom windows where this, I think it's like a green color board or metal panel that's at the front facade of the building. They would also be redoing the entryway on the lower half of the facade to include some marble tiling, as well as a entry door, double doorway that's kind of pushed forward into and under the building. That layout is also in your packet. They'll also be installing a new door to access the upstairs lofts of the building, have 2 separate entrances and exits there. At the back of the building, there's a lot of details in the submittal that we received from the applicant. However, just to sum it up, they're mainly doing a lot of just general facade maintenance and improvements to some of the masonry features, repainting the window sills and sashes, grouting if not. I think they might have started that work a little bit already. You can see where there were some transom windows above these rear doors that were bricked up. You can kind of see that color difference there. They want to reinstall transom windows at those 2 locations. The applicant's requesting to utilize Ivory Essence, Ivory Essence, Dreamy Teal, and Rustic Earth as the 3 colors in the color scheme. Here's the subject property, or the colors here. It is hard to see on screen, but these are also in your packet. Now, the applicant's wanting to use Ivory Essence for some of the window trims and additional accent features. Rustic Earth is predominantly going to be used on the front and the rear as repainting some previously painted bricks, so that way they can match the upper and lower facades, can be more consistent looking. And the applicant's wanting to use Dreamy Teal on the doors. Now, the City Council adopted an ordinance stating that the Historic Preservation will make recommendations on paint colors, and City Council will now take final action on the paint colors. So all of the options in your packet here today are on the list of Historic Preservation, or National Trust for Historic Preservation. The applicant also gave us a couple of alternatives that are also on that list that they would be comfortable utilizing. And I think those color schemes are also appropriate. They're really not significant changes to what's there. It seems like they're trying to be consistent with what's existing today and has existed in the past. And so with that, you have a recommendation of approval from staff. We're present for any questions that you might have, and the applicant is also here.
I do have a question. The first three colors that are recommended, are those the colors they will go with?
Yes, those are the primary selected colors that the applicant, that's their first choice, which is,
And if they change colors, they have to come back to you or us?
I'm sorry, if they
decide to use an alternate color?
you can, I think in your motion, you can make a recommendation for alternatives that were in the packet. However, I'm sorry?
I don't think that would be necessary.
Okay. But just to note, if in the future they decide to repaint new colors, then yeah, they would come back and go back to City Council. My understanding is that City Council just wants to pay closer attention to some of the colors that are approved downtown.
Very good. I did my homework. Any questions?
So we're looking at two particular issues here. One is the color and the other is the architecture.
That's
Right?
correct, yes.
And your recommendation on both sides from what I'm reading here is that, with the exception of what George said about the alternative colors, is to go forward.
Yes, sir. So we're recommending approval of the facade modifications that as they were submitted by the applicant, as well as recommending approval of their first color choices, which are ivory essence, dreamy teal, and rustic earth.
Gotcha.
And those alternatives are in there just in case. My understanding and experience with this body before has been y'all tend to like to see a couple options, even if they're similar, that might be a better fit for the building.
And the entry is going to pretty much look like the adjacent building.
Yep.
Yes. I think that should be pretty close to what the applicant's trying to
Yeah.
achieve. Is that correct, sir?
The entrance will pretty much look like your other building, the adjacent one?
Yes, the lower entrance street level, the two center, the double doors in the center.
Right.
And they'll be perfectly in line with the windows at the second floor. For eye appeal, not off center, they'll be exactly centered. And they'll also have, however, these will have an angled, slightly angled
Right.
from the front glass entrance will be slightly angled to the double doors. And then only in, I forgot how many feet, but it's only in about 6 feet to the double doors. So to give an appeal of welcome. The other building, it's perpendicular, so.
Do you have any idea what's underneath the green facade on the front?
Yes, that's totally open. It's strictly studded from years ago, the other signage and the exact footprint to the original transom windows is gone. But there's plenty of studs in there that held the signage from the ladies' store before. So it's virtually nothing there looking past the studs from the inside except the back of it's a wafer board and the back of that stucco green rectangle. So once that's demoed, the carpentry work can start, and the transom windows are already exist. They don't have to be ordered. They're wavy glass, and they're old school. They're really, really nice once they're restored to go in and there's 6 of them that will go across, 43 by 43 square.
Okay, great.
think this looks great. I probably use the term
I'm
cool.
sorry.
It's very cool. It's
I
very,
wear a hearing aid, I'm sorry.
It looks good.
it looks great.
Oh,
Except, Mr. Medina, you threw me off in your packet. I looked and I saw that across the street, 307, and or frankly, we closed on that last Friday. I thought, how in the world can they be redoing that building at this point?
Did I add the wrong number?
any more for me?
No, sir. And Mr. Solomon, I might add that we trust you're gonna do a good job. We've seen what you've done already.
I'm sorry, George?
We've already seen what you did with your first building, so I think you're gonna do a pretty good job.
Oh, well, it's sometimes over the top doing when you, got the boss lady I work for. It's gonna be good, it's gonna be nice.
Okay.
We appreciate your commitment to the beauty of our town.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Any more questions or discussion?
A motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
So moved. Do we need, Mr. Medina, both of those motions? Would you like the text of both of those motions in the minutes?
Yes, ma'am. Though those two recommended motions, the reason I broke them up like that is because of the new ordinance change from City Council. I want to make sure that it was clear that the approval for the modifications to the building can be approved today, and council is going to take action on the paint.
Understood.
All right, so should we redo the motion?
Yeah, go ahead and read those.
And we'll treat it as two separate motions? All right, who wants to make the first motion?
Go ahead, Linda.
I move to approve the proposed front and rear facade alterations at 314 West Main Street.
I second Alexander.
Those in favor, say aye.
I, Anderson.
Go ahead, Linda. I can't find it.
You approve?
Approve.
Aye. Okay, the second motion, Mr. Alexander.
Go ahead, Linda.
I move to recommend approval of the use of Ivory Essence 306-8C, Rustic Earth 2007-7A, and Dreamy Teal 5007-8B at 314 West Main Street.
Do I have a second?
You have a second, Alexander.
Those in favor, say aye.
I, Anderson.
Alexander.
Aye. Opposed? There being none, and then the motion is carried. All right. Thank you.
Let me go right there.
Okay, moving on to item D. Receive report, hold a discussion, and take action on a request to install a door on the rear facade of 106 South Houston Avenue. Case number 2021-038H. Mr. Medina?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is subject property here on South Houston Avenue, just south of East Main Street. While the applicant's not here today, this case here is pretty straightforward. There's an existing doorway at the subject property to the south of this building here. And you can see that outlined here, that existing doorway. The applicant is wanting to remove the brick to allow for a door of that exact, if not very similar style and color, to allow for emergency access to the current tenants of the building. Right now, it just makes it more convenient for them to load and unload and also get out of the building if needed to add this additional door. My understanding is there's a wall separating the two right now. The proposed door measures 42 inches by 81 inches and is comprised of black and bronze metal and glass. I could not get a decent picture of the building as all this is currently under construction, but this aerial should help. I'm present for any questions that you might have, and we also recommend approval.
Any questions? Mr. Alexander?
I'm looking.
Yeah, looks good.
No. I have no questions.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the installation of the proposed metal and glass door on the rear facade of 106 South Houston Avenue.
Do I have a second?
Second, Alexander.
All those in favor?
Anderson, aye.
Alexander, aye.
Mason, aye. Those opposed? There being none, then the motion is carried. Thank you. Okay.
George,
What?
just a
Yes.
quick note, you guys don't have to say your names anymore, since we're here and we can see who's making the motion on the recording, there's no need to do that. That was just more for
Thank
when
you.
we were
I-
meeting virtually.
I sensed that.
Yeah, if it makes it easier.
But we like hearing our names.
Exactly. Exactly.
Sometimes being chairman of this committee is not fun. Item E, receive a report, hold a discussion, and make a recommendation on a request to paint the facade and trim of the structure located at 531 West Crawford Street. Case number 2021-059H. Mr. Medina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Here's the subject property outlined in yellow. This is looking south, so the building actually sits on the north side of West Crawford Street. Here's a photo I took this morning of the front of the building, and then the rear or the side, I believe that's Myrick. Yes, this is standing on Myrick right here in the alley. So the applicant's requesting to paint the building the primary facade color, and again, let me clarify that only previously painted masonry features will be allowed to be painted. If you go look at the building today, you see there's like some limestone framing this doorway. That is not allowed to be painted with this, or not up for discussion
I
here.
was going to ask about that.
So only the previously painted masonry and metal features can be painted. The applicant's requesting to use Pulitzer blue as the main color and noir as a trim. Now, Pulitzer blue, here's the color right here. It can be a little bright, so we're recommending that if this color is deemed acceptable, that it's only done so in a matte or a semi-gloss finish to help kind of mute it a little bit. Now, the applicant has also selected alternative facade colors in Egyptian blue and bountiful blue. Same thing as recommendation of a matte or a semi-gloss color. And then alternative trims are midnight shadow and muscade gray. And just to clarify, because I made a mistake on the agenda packet, and I have to own that, is if you look at Exhibit C and D, you'll see blue nostalgia and Dutch licorice. Those colors are not in the list of National Trust for Historic Preservation colors, so I asked the applicant to submit alternatives that are within that color palette. What you see on the slides and what is actually written in the analysis is correct. Egyptian blue, bountiful blue as alternatives, and midnight shadow and muscade gray as alternatives. And that's also what you see on screen. I can clarify that further if I need to. So I'm present for any questions that you might have. Staff recommends approval of the primary selection of Pulitzer blue and noir. And as a reminder, this body will make a recommendation on the color, and City Council will take final action at the next available meeting. I believe it's the 18th of October.
I made a point of driving down there and having a look at the building because I did not remember that it had been painted, and it was indeed. Normally, I don't like to see black used as a major part of the trim, but in this case, the amount of trim involved is kind of minimal, so I don't think it'd be a problem. That's really my only comment. I'm glad to see something happening with the building.
Yes, sir. I'll pass that along to the applicant.
Any other questions or comments? There being none, can I have a motion?
I move to recommend approval of the use of Pulitzer blue 4008-4A on the building facade and noir 4009-2 on the trim and accents at 531 West Crawford Street, subject to the finish being matte or semi-gloss.
Do I have a second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There being none, then the motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, item number 3, staff updates. Receive report and hold a discussion on staff updates. Mr. Medina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate all of y'all's help today, and I just want to welcome our new board member. We're glad to have her, and we're excited to keep moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
The other thing I'd like to bring up today is we're also going to welcome Greg Lloyd. I was saying Greg Smith. Greg Lloyd. He's stepping up to be our interim director of planning and community services. So we look forward to working with him. He was previously our fire chief, so brings a lot of insight on building new, I guess, safety features in our new developments. So would be a big asset there.
Very good. Welcome.
Great.
Welcome.
Bill, I might add another thing, and I only know this because my wife's on the committee that's looking into this. The approved color palette is being worked on, and I assume that's going to be available before too long.
Yes, we hope so. Main Street is leading that. I did draft, or our staff did, thank you, Diane, for helping me, sorry. We do have a cleaner packet of the list of colors that, before we just had a list of letters and numbers, and it was kind of difficult to navigate. But now we have a very nice page where you can see chips from every single approved color currently. When our new palette comes out, we'll update it and keep it going.
Great. From my perspective, that is going to be a real help for this committee. So we thank everyone involved in that.
Yes, sir.
Anybody have anything else to say or ask? There being none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. President.